Okay, good evening, everybody. Happy New Year, and welcome to Life of Crypto in 2025. I truly wanted the first, call video recording of the year to just be a positive, upbeat. This is the final year of the 4-year cycle, parabolic phase. 2025 is the way that we are going to go. And when I started pulling everything together yesterday and this morning, felt like that was a place to be. Bitcoin's over 100k, decent surge, decent start to the year. ETF inflows are on the rise. Michael Saylor's buying, etc., etc. Even Kramer saying we were going down to 90k. It felt like everything was in our favor. But we get to 3 o'clock this afternoon and everything changes. And we're looking at price. Price is looking pretty dicey at the moment. Sitting on around about 96,000, Tau down to 500. It's a dark time in crypto, but we've all been here before. We've all seen that before. And maybe these red days are just to remind us that it's no straight line to glory, to our goals, whatever it may be. So I'm still going to keep it positive. Of course, we're going to spend time talking about current price action, and it'll be pretty fluid because price is moving incredibly fast over the last few hours, and who knows what's going to happen in the next hour or so. That being said, hope everyone is good. Hope everyone is well. If you've got any questions as we go through, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll pick those up. We've got quite a bit to cover, so we won't waste too much time. He says, hesitating. And with that, then we'll just jump straight in. Okay, price action. Here it is, 3-day time frame. Actually, it's a daily. I always do this with Bitcoin. 3-day time frame. Let's have that. And today's that red candle on the end, but we're still ranging. We're still ranging within that 92 to 100, 102 area, which we've kind of been doing for best part of a month and a half now. Yes, we've been a little bit higher and we've been a little bit lower, but we're still packing within that. And I know someone will say there's a potential head and shoulders on this here, which I'm not so sure about, but a shoulder there, a head there, and a shoulder here. This being the neckline. But we're still moving upwards, generally in price. And I think that's something to just remind ourselves about. Of course, today's like today are shocked. We're down nearly $6,000. 6% BTC moves don't happen that often. But when we go to actually have a look at Bitcoin on other time frames, we've got a question. How much further we got left to go before we need to really get worried? But also, is this so much of a problem going in? And then the rest of the markets followed Bitcoin. There's not many that have managed to sort of stave it off. I'm trying to just have a look at the ones we've got on the side. There's nothing. Virtuals earlier today was green, but that's now gone nearly 5% down. But NIR's down, total market cap's down, Tau's down 500. That's a key level there. We'll see how that closes. But yeah, I arguably, I wouldn't say I rushed, I waited, but I did get back in, not being the best, because although I've sort of staggered my entries back in, some of them have been pretty high, risk reward of taking a side step really needs to be evaluated by the end of the day. But we'll have a look at BitTensor a little bit later on. I haven't seen any questions yet. Perfect. Right, let's go quickly to some news, and I am going to be quick. This one has slid under the radar because we were partying too hard on New Year's Eve, but Do Kwon from Terra Luna, who caused many of us pain back in 2022, has actually been extradited. And if you remember, there was actually a battle. Was it going to be South Korea that got in? Was it going to be the United States that got in? It was the US. So he got extradited about 4 or 5 days ago. He's now in US custody. We'll wait to see trials and everything else a little bit later on. But he's one of the last bad guys still roaming around free. Not quite. But yeah, he may be facing his trial, or likely to be facing his trial, with a new president and a new regime, if that's the right term. It'll be interesting to see how that fares. But, prior to 3 o'clock this afternoon, most of the news was actually fairly upbeat. We saw that the ETFs were just flying back in, finally getting back from their holidays, and they were buying 3 times more BTC than was produced in December. Now, what did they say? 51,000 BTC in December. They effectively, over the last 2 days, bought $2 billion worth of BTC via the ETFs. And we can kind of see here, we've had The thirds, that's Friday, and then yesterday, Monday, there it is, $1.878 billion. So people are buying. Okay, granted, 2nd of January, people were selling a little bit, particularly BlackRock. And we're interested to see where today's come in. But it started off with the news, people coming back and going, right, let's start filling those banks up again. So it really did feel like business as usual. And as I mentioned, MicroStrategy, they're straight in with buying. And now I know they do it. They really do every single time. We tell ourselves it's not going to be the case, but they always buy the local tops. And this is no different. They announced the purchase yesterday, 23 hours ago. Today, the market corrects. And again, we're going to talk. Someone's asked me a question about MicroStrategy later, so we'll talk on that a little bit later on. But it just felt like it was business as usual. And then, despite where we are with price action, just look at this: $19 trillion, not billion, $1 trillion worth of transactions were settled on the Bitcoin network in 2024. I mean, the strength that this thing is showing, and it is double what was seen in 2023 at $8.7 trillion. And if you think those 2 years, we had the climbing out of the bear market phase, the BTC dominance kind of phase over those 2 years, we're talking nearly $30 trillion settled across the network in 700 and odd days. So in very impressive statistics to see. And it, again, gave me that positive kind of mindset that this is where we're going to go. 2025 is not about worrying what happens on the daily. 2025 is about thinking about where we're going to get to. Yep, there's plenty of questions we need to answer. When's the market going to end? At what price is that going to be? Are we going to have it like in 2021? We had 2 tops. It's going to be like 2017 with a singular top. We don't know those, but if we believe in the 4-year cycle, and there's still no reason, despite people talking about strategic reserves and countries and all of that, there's no reason to suggest that the 4-year cycle is broken, and 2025 is our year. And that's the message, isn't it? Granted, 6% down on BTC today, $6,000 wiped off. But hey, 6 weeks ago, we were only at 67,000. So let's take it in relative terms there. And this chart here, for those of you who don't know, it's the rational root, and it's the sort of like the Bitcoin clock. So it's the halving clock and where the price is. And I'm not here to run through it, doesn't matter. This is just that visualization of the halving happened sort of on this line at round about 10:30, I suppose. And we have now just tipped through the 12 o'clock. And sometime between 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock, that is when the top will happen. It's how it's always happened before. That's when it's going to happen now. And as I said, we don't know if it's a singular top or a double top. But this quarter, it's this final year, is what we're focusing on. It's where we're going to be looking. So most of you have been in the group since at least 2022. We've felt a bear market. We've then felt 2 years of climbing out. We've got one line this year. So we're going to have done a full cycle together. I'm sure plenty of you have done multiple cycles. But now's the time. So, bear that in mind and let's fucking go. I mean, that is the thumbnail, isn't it? We are going to be a success from this. And I really want that message to just be the message going forward. Sorry, there's a noise behind me there. Let me just move on to the next one. This is it. So this is from CryptoCon. Those of you who have watched a few of these, I do like how he just displays some of his thoughts on the charts. They're very clean. Using the white background, which I don't always like, but actually it's very clean on how you look at it here. And I just want to bring this up because I'm talking to you about, is it going to be a singular top or is it going to be a double top? And he was kind of suggesting, well, depending on how you look at it, and I appreciate there's so many different ways to skin the cat, that people can interpret different data into different things to try and understand where we're going to see it. But we can only really use the past data we've seen as a guide of how we're going to go on in the future. But he's sort of saying, well, actually, it doesn't matter if it's a singular top or a double top, because every cycle has 2 tops. And when we look at the previous 3 cycles, 2021 was more evident because both tops were quite close to each other, 64 and 69,000. But actually in 2017, we had a June top, similar kind of time difference between it, the June top, which then saw a decent pullback. And it doesn't look like it on that chart, I appreciate, because it's a logarithmic. But it had this pullback from around about, got to try and eyeball this, 2,000, let's call it 3,500 down to around about 1,400. So 50% correction before shooting up and the next top. And a similar thing happened in the 2013-2014 cycle. We had April and then we had a November top. So again, like 2021. So the point being that actually, maybe we will see two cycles. And if that is going to be the case, he uses the Fibonacci to try and sort of determine where the first and second top's going to be. I've not really looked into that to see where it is. So look, if you want to go into it, follow him on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and I'm sure he'll explain that. But the point for me is, if that's going to be the case, we are kind of looking, one's going to be in the first half of the year, one's going to be in the second half of the year. But I'd like to take it a step further. I'm probably going to see something in either in the late end of Q1 or the early part of Q2, seeing that first cycle top and that pullback. And then we'll see some sort of just mulling around, correction, fear in the market, and then a new catalyst take us up to that level. And there is opportunity within that. I don't remember really taking massive advantage of the opportunity in April 2021. I think by the time we got to 50K, I got out, but I didn't get out of a lot of alts. And then by the time we got to 30K, I didn't quite believe it. So you'll wait till about 35. So, you know, but there was something to be made from that. Whereas maybe this time we can actually try and keep our eye on the ball. And if those things present ourselves, try and make a better opportunity from it. And then rather than just every single time the candle moves in the direction we don't like it, we panic and sell and then try and recover the buy, we actually wait for maybe one or two clean shots in this year, take the opportunity there to make a bigger gain than messing around sweating. Yes, we've got more chances, so there's the higher chance of success, but with that, we've got more failures that are going to reduce whatever we do make. So that's something to just bear in mind, and I make no excuse for it. I'll talk about that each week. Well, maybe not each week, but I'll talk about that often enough that, you know, at least it gives you an opportunity to think about it, even if you don't spend the remaining time of your weeks, and why should you, thinking about where crypto is going, although I dare say we all do. So looking at this here, Richard, I've seen your question. I'll come back to that in a second if you don't mind. So this is the chart everyone has seen, and this blue line actually, you know, reached its 2-year anniversary at the crossing of 2025. So I'm still standing by that line. We didn't quite get anywhere near that at the moment, but what we can see right now, and I have put the EMAs on, so we've got the 20 and the 50 EMA, 20 obviously being the orange, 50 being the blue. And we've seen some sort of rejection down here. We haven't actually even, we've got 4 hours till the candle closes, so we'll see where it is, but no real acknowledgement that either of those EMAs are helping to hold that right now. So really, the 1618, which is the golden, well, it's not the golden, 0.618 is, but any 618 goldens at 94.3 is probably the level that I'm really looking at. Now, the reality is that we get down to 94.3, we could spike lower, and that is where we then start to, unfortunately, maybe have to agree with old Jim Cramer and suggest that there is potential for 90K, because we've got in that yellow box there, which it's around about 91,300 to about 89.7, if I remember top. You can't quite see them on the charts because they're over there. But that is trap liquidity. You know, that's vector candles. There's a heat map from the liquidation heat map, and so there's an ideal target. And then when you look at that paired with, you know, where some of the bottom of these wicks are here, where this shoulder of, you know, stabilizing over a couple of weeks was back in mid-November, kind of stands to reason that there is that opportunity. And okay, you know, we had a move down, up, retest, strong move up. Everyone's talking about it. Right, nice double bottom pattern there, off to the races. Well, that has failed, okay, regardless of how we think about it. So the next thing we need to, you know, look for is there a triple bottom that we can see some sort of reaction from? And so that, you know, in reality is what we need to look at. Now, if I just get rid of this fib, if we have a look, I'm trying to get it so we can fit it all in, which that's what I'm supposed to be doing. If we try and run a fib from there to the top, and actually the level we've just lost at 96,700, pretty key level on the fibs. Not the strongest, but it is a pretty key level. So now we've taken this effectively from the elections. This is the Trump pump, as they called it. So that move, all the way the move up to the all-time high. And I granted, I've done wick to wick. I should really do body to body because, you know, I don't want anyone to think I'm cheating. That's what I normally do. Okay, body to body actually looks a little bit better. So it's 96,000 and the candle, you know, still slightly above that. But just look at some of the other levels. You know, that 90K we talked about, 382. Then we can talk about some of the more depressing ones that I don't really want to worry about necessarily if we get there, but just mark them on your cards at sort of around about 85 and 80K. The 80K is an odd one because it's a 618, but in terms of previous price action, it's kind of standing in no man's land. We'll have a look later on when we throw a few more EMAs like the 200 and the 800 on whether or not 80K. So please just remember that when we have a look at it. But as I've talked about a few times, unfortunately, that 75K level is we lose that. And then I'm wondering, actually, have we actually had that first peak earlier than everyone thinks? And this is the correction. And by then, we really need to assess where the risk to reward is of getting back out. But we're not going to worry about that just yet. There's plenty of other levels in our way. And for the last few weeks, I've talked about those levels. We've come down to 91,000 and we bounced from it and I've looked like a bit of an idiot. So I'm going to assume that that's exactly what's going to happen again, save for me not looking like an idiot this time, hopefully. And this is something else, you know, trying to keep it positive. Trust me, the doom and gloom is going to come later for those of you that like that. So this is the BLX, so it's the Bitcoin Liquid Index. And for some of you going, well, it's 102,000 there. What's going on? Well, this only updates every 24 hours. So this is as of yesterday's price. We're not interested in that. This is the yearly chart. So every bar is 12 months, okay? So it's the entire history of Bitcoin. And what can you see from a pattern point of view? Okay, I mean, spoiler alert, because it's in the little box next to it. But 2011, 2012, 2013, 3 greens, and then we have a red year. Okay, sounding kind of familiar. 3 greens and then a red year. Jesus, they like to stick with 3 greens in a row and a red. Wonder what that kind of cycle must mean. 2019 to 2022 is exactly the same. So what have we seen so far? Well, 2023, overall green. 2024, overall green. It stands to reason that if we're looking at that 2025 is likely going to end up higher than where it started and be a green year, regardless of whether or not we see the pump that I want to see. And I did put in the chat, there's a little poll where you think Bitcoin's top's going to be. I appreciate altcoins will, you know, hopefully move from that and all of the kind of, you know, metrics that go after that with how the 4-year cycle ends. But I'm just looking for Bitcoin all-time high. What do you think the all-time high is going to be? Kind of where we are now, 120 to 150, 150 to 200 or 200 plus. Because of course that's going to dictate roughly where the overall market cap's going to be, and then we can get a feel for where altcoins are going to do. We will look at Bitcoin dominance a little bit later on. But again, positive, regardless of what's happened today. That is one of 365. Just double checking it's not a leap year. No, it's not. One of 365 days, and we've seen it as a red day. But I don't think right now it's anything to worry about. And actually, you know what normally happens? We're going to look at it in the chart later. This is going to be a stonking red vector candle. And you know I'm going to go around and just have a look at how many vector candles get recovered. Highly likely we will see this recovered at some stage. So don't panic too much if you are thinking about selling now. The move's happened. Okay, wait to see where we go next. This again, another one from CryptoCon. It was a newsletter I got from him. I had both of these on here, and we were talking about, you know, alt seasons. And because that's the thing, I have some Bitcoin, but a lot of you are just in altcoin. So it's all well and good having a Bitcoin season, but we really want to know, for our bull market to finish, we want the alt season that ultimately goes with that. And on the chart here, which we're not going to necessarily run through too much, we've got the dominance of the others. Now, just to clarify, others is cryptocurrencies outside of the top 10. So we're not even including the likes of Sol and BNB or anything. We're talking real alt season. I wouldn't say micro caps, but we're not even mid caps. There are large caps, mid caps, and belongs. We're not the superstars. And then the other one is just the altcoins as in the price action. So that's where on the right hand side you can see percentage, and then you can also see price. Sorry, having a little think then. But he goes out to say, you know, it's not an Elliott wave because the way the numbers fall, but there's 5 distinct stages. I'm not necessarily fussed about that. Ultimately, what is interesting is the start date, because the start date for alt season in that final year has happened the same time. Well, not the same time as in the exact day, but over the same period each time. And I don't think this says it very clearly, but can't see the bottom one. Typically, and I have to do this on the logarithmic, because if I shove this on the linear, you can't see it 'cause of my face. Just look at how petty that alt season looks on the linear chart, okay? But actually, when I pump it up a little bit more, it's actually incredibly steep. Okay, so let me just now try and work everything so you'll be able to see it without me running into the camera. I've had to do this on the weekly. Right, I don't know if you can see those blue lines. Hopefully you can. That's a shocking color to choose with a dark background, so I apologize there. But alt seasons for that final year typically start and kick off some stage during Q1 of that final year. So in our instance, this time, 2025. And that is evident in the previous ones. I had another, this isn't the right chart. I had another one which had the last alt season on. It's not there, apologies. I'm not going to waste time digging through it because there weren't that many alts back then. But you can see we have those sharp moves up and then they keep on going even higher through the rest of the cycle. But it starts the sharp move up in this same period. And so, you know, we've just tipped into it because it's the 1st of January to the end of March. So, okay, this first week, not particularly started off great, but off we go. And for any of you that actually caught Siam's YouTube video today, I think he sort of talked about it's typically 34 weeks from the halving event in which the alt season starts, when we're around about week 30, week 31. So, you know, potentially we're a month away from that happening. So that's kind of where we want to see it. And I think that's where hopefully we're going to start to see some real gains within our portfolios. I appreciate there's always outliers that are pumping well whilst others aren't. But that's where I would be sort of looking these next 3 months, which sounds like a long time, but it's really not, is it? You know, we've waited this long to where to go. And it doesn't matter, you know, the 2 examples here, whether it's a singular top in inverted commas, pretty darn steep. And then this one here, it doesn't look steep, does it? Because it's on the linear, but that's from 44 billion to 340 billion. So an 8x. This one down here, from whenever it started, was 305 million, Jesus, to 64 billion. So God knows what's that, a 330x. And we're currently at the moment sitting at, you know, 300, and that's just gone up to 390, let's just call it, billion. You know, where's that going to go up to? Well, if we're looking at some of our higher figures, we're actually going to be wanting to see this, you know, at around about 7 or 8 trillion, so the rest of the market cap can get to that $12 trillion sort of level. So there's still plenty of room to go. Do I think we're going to see 353 billion to 7 trillion? That feels like a lot, actually. More realistically, maybe we get to 2 trillion and the top 10s are going to have to carry a lot of the weight. But there's still plenty of movement within that 10x that's available over there. And then this was sort of like another way of just showing that. So I don't think we need to, you know, hammer it to death too much. Why can't I not remember a red line to move? But what you can see here is we have the total market cap, which is the bars, and then the red line is total 3. So, you know, altcoins minus, I suppose, Ethereum. And again, you can still kind of see that, if I can find it, January here. Look how sharp that one went up in 2020. I know Bitcoin did as well, but this one really outpaced it. If I can get these two to on the same scale, which I'm not going to waste too much time. Can I do it? Can I do it? Not quite there. It's about there now. Now they're on top of each other. You kind of see how sharp it went. And then again, this one, I've not got the right one up again. It doesn't show you from January. That's a wasted chart. Let's move on. Okay, let's get on to Bitcoin's price. Sorry about that. So actually, before we move on, because I don't want to just brush over it, that's 25 minutes of me being pretty positive about cryptos. And I do hope, despite what you may be feeling today, and despite you having to really pluck up some courage to open up your portfolio today, you are also optimistic about cryptocurrency in this year. I mean, if you're not optimistic about 2025, I actually have no idea what you're doing in crypto, because history has shown us within crypto that this will be our year. And if you can't buy into that this year with all of the other abundance that's out there, I haven't mentioned the inauguration in 13 days, nearly 12 days. I haven't mentioned about the sovereign countries potentially going through the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Haven't mentioned, actually, no, I have. But there's plenty of bullish things that will also contribute to not only money or fiat moving into cryptocurrencies, but also eyeballs on cryptocurrencies. And randomly, this is random. I was in the doctor's surgery today, and you're waiting there forever to see the doctor, and there was Radio 4 on, and what caught my ear was the guest that was talking was questioned as to why cryptocurrency is growing more popular. And one of the things was she ended up talking about was lack of trust of fiat currencies and how they are run. And it's interesting because a few years ago, or even during the bear market certainly, but a few cycles ago, that would never have been a question that was even going to be asked on the radio. For probably would have been at best, why is Bitcoin a scam and used by terrorists or something? So we can already see that the narrative is changing there. And I thought the lady that was on there, I'm not going to bore you with it, she had a brilliant response, all coming down to sort of trust and just sort of how Bitcoin works and everything else. And it just felt like, wow, people are actually still talking positively about this thing. So that's, it's there. I feel like there is a paradigm shift in mentality, maybe because we're in the bull year, absolutely, and we'll see where we are in 2 years' time at the bottom of the bear market. But here we go with it. So let's have a look at Bitcoin. We're on the daily at the moment. We'll cycle down through some others. Richie, I am going to get onto yours, and if Tau drops to 279 by the time I get there, I sincerely apologize. But I might as well wait for that until we get to Tau and altcoins a little bit later on. And this one I'm talking about yesterday, stonking blue vector candle. And I think it turned blue at the death. It was green before then. So what would we expect? We would expect vector candles to get recovered, especially in bunching areas like this one has with there, like the blues and the reds and the green. Well, the green didn't, but the red happened, the blue recovered it, etc. So all that's happened is we've had it recovered. And okay, 3.5 hours to go. Don't know where it's going to end up, but that candle has been recovered. There's talk about why that happened with the 10-year bonds, with the jolts and the ISM data that sort of came out. And okay, I accept all of that. But the reality is, I see it, we had a vector candle. Those are typically recovered. People just want it lower. And so there's an opportunity there that has been taken with a strong move down. But with that strong move down, what's going to happen. I said at the beginning, this is going to leave a stonking red vector candle. And vector candles get recovered. So it might not be tomorrow. It's unlikely to be tomorrow. But at some stage, that candle there will be recovered. So if you've got the stomach to hold on to it, then just wait. Just wait. As bad as it's been, it's not as bad as it was for us during 2022. Sorry for the slurping. I didn't think that was going to happen. But if we actually do look at this, obviously we've had, our move up here. And I suppose my only concern right now is whether that's going to be some sort of weird M. I don't think it is, but at first I was like, is this a W formation? And we're moving up, and this is just, going to be the next stage. But I wasn't expecting such a severe kind of recovery of that to sort of like go, well, this was the consolidation period for it, because we would really want to see it do that, however low it went. But that's sort of where it is. And you can see for me what it's heading at. It's heading towards this level here, 94,000, the 50 EMA. And the 50 EMA on the daily has been very kind to us. We have interacted with it very recently, and it has always held up, okay? It's always held up. And then we can go back. We had some interaction with it in October, and the cloud saved us, but it held up. Matter of fact, the last time we really lost it was the end of August. That's the last time that the 50 EMA has not been and grabbed our backs. And so, again, bearing in mind the narrative, bearing in mind the time of the seasonality, as in the Bitcoin season of where we are, it's likely that the 50 EMA is going to help us. And I accept that the cloud may have to end up coming to catch us, which is where we get down to 90K, Jim Cramer, and off we go from that. So there's an opportunity there. Now we start to lose that, and we can have a look at some of the other conversations we had. And I said the 80K was a bit of an odd one, but now let's just draw this up again, what I drew before, which was November. Okay, there we go. Let's put this on. This 80K, the 618. Now, interestingly, the 0.5 in the 0.618 just literally bookmark or bookshelf, or I don't know what the term is, that vector candle that needs recovering. But also, unless we have a incredibly sharp drop, it's highly likely by the time we get down to that, the 200 EMA is going to catch it, and then maybe that's fine. So I do think that 80K has a valid level, that 618, on the grander scale of things. And we just need to wait till we have a look at a little bit more information on the charts to kind of give us a validation as to why that was. But there it is. We go down some lower time frames, and unfortunately, we're going to start to see the mucky side of it all with what's going to happen today. We had a look at the 12s. Let's have a look at the 4. Let's get rid of that as well once that loads up. And it's what I mean about that range we've sat in. And, you know, since just prior to Christmas, so for the last sort of 3 weeks, I need to sort out my mouse sensitivity. That's what we've sat in, and we just dropped back into it. And yet, unfortunately, the bottom side of that is still in and around that 91,000 we talked about. But in that time on the 4 hour, we've lost the 50, we've gained the 50, we've climbed out of the 50, and we've come back under it. And that's just, unfortunately, the game that we find ourselves in. But because we've ranged, there's not a single vector within that cluster except for what we created, 8 hours ago or whatever. So, high chance, as I said before, I feel like I'm repeating myself, and I apologize for that, for those of you that got the message, that is likely to be recovered at some stage. Might not be tomorrow, might not be in the next 6, that would be tomorrow, might not be in the next 16 candles, bear in mind we're on the 4 hour, but it will be recovered. When we go on to the 1 hour, now that does look ugly. On the 1 hour, we are below the 10, the 20, the 50, the 200, and now the 800. So that's a pretty ugly picture, unfortunately. But what I would also say with that is it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 that have closed till 30 minutes after this. So 11 candles in a row that have been red. I know some are actually red. If it's grey, red, or purple, magenta, that's a red candle. Just the way this is all set up. So 12 in a row. I mean, we don't have an RSI on here, but I imagine that's going to be getting pretty close to oversold. Whether or not it's a relief bounce, because we've got a hell of a lot of EMAs to get through, there's likely to be some sort of recovery in the short term. So with that in mind, if you are about panicking, running to your Trezor to sell your Bitcoin, just wait to see how a few of these play out. It may still have the 94K within it, but it's all about risk to reward now, and we've fallen for 12 candles in a row, some of them extremely fiercely. And so there it goes. And again, just to reiterate my point, all of these three green candles were vector candles until 11 o'clock this morning, okay? And they were recovered, and they've been recovered with strong red ones. So at some stage, it is likely we'll do this, maybe we'll do this, and then we'll take those out. That's just, it won't be that steep. Well, it'd be lovely if it was, but that was just because I was running out of space. So yeah, and then because it's the hourly, all these EMAs will flip, like they have done here and here, and it's just a bit of a mess on the hourly because we've ranged for so long. So that is likely to happen sometime. I was going to say the near future, but I don't want to be the guy that says it's the near future. Don't worry about it, everybody. Kind of want to just get rid of that. There we go. Now, in terms of, I'm going to put it back onto just the daily, just because the hourly is a bit confusing. I might drop it onto lower time frame before, but even if we ignore what I like with fib levels and what I like with EMAs, you know, we can still look at price action. That's fairly strong. Oh, what is with my coloring? I tell you, apologies there. Let's just make that a little bit thicker as well. There's plenty of wicks and body closes. 91.5. You know, I've already mentioned that shoulder there, but we could just pencil it off with this down here, 87. We start to tie in some of those. So in the short term, the 94 is where I'm looking. We lose a 94, I'm thinking, okay, fib levels say it. We're still within the EMA cloud. We've got the liquidity levels from all of the leverage trading. And we've also got previous price action. Not to mention, Jim Cramer is a broken clock. He's going to be right at sometimes 90K. That 91 to 90K level is just probably where we're likely to go. Now, let's have a look if there's anything else. I mean, is there a trend line we can get from here? Not really, because that's wicked and nobody. Let's have a look. I mean, there's no real trend line that I would be comfortable with for that 90 to 91K, because it's just too flat there. Maybe, and we'd be pushing now, because I'm like, oh, well, I'm hoping something works for me, but I got a feeling it's going to say that okay, no. Potentially, it's only got 2 touch points beforehand. Maybe that's something that sort of says we could also have a sort of a trend line, and we've been snaking up it. We don't really connect with anything down here. I would love it if it connected with that wick or something, but it doesn't. But if you're really stretching for some other sort of confirmation, maybe you can add that line to your charts. It's not something I'm personally going to do. I think I've got enough points to sort of say 94 and 91 kind of my areas, and we lose that, and we need to reevaluate everything else. Okay, right. You meant 479. Okay. Yeah, you might want to get worried. Go on, I'll talk about it just very well. I'm gonna have to talk about that now. Just very quickly, just Richard, I'm not telling you to close your long, but using the fibs, that's that's what I like to use. What is this linked up to? Is this on the weekly or the 4 hour? It would have been. Yeah. Okay, looking messy. I'm going to try and stretch it out so you can see it a little bit better. Where did I take it from here? So I took it from November up to the high, and then we've watched it down. Okay, we've seen it. Came back to where November price action was. Shot up to the 618 and the 5. Had plenty of ping pong between there. And, a lot of us, I bought some back in within that range as well. And we've lost it. And it's lost the 786, which isn't particularly strong level. So it's at 505. For me, close below that, unless the 800 catches us, the next logical level is at 457. And that 457 brings you into that Gandalf level, if you remember back here, that this this is on. And all that interaction. So this one, what's going on? Sorry about that noise a bit. Yeah, this one goes all the way back to inception almost, or March 23. Nice support, resistance, support, resistance, support, and then that last move, bang, straight off it. By the time we get down here, you're talking sort of 450. So 479 could be a weak area to look at. A risky area to sort of be looking at. I don't know how exposed you are within it. If that's a stop, I think you said it's a liquidation price. Yeah, lick level. So you're going to have to manage your risk within that. And I'm certainly not telling you to get out of it now, because sod's law will be, if I told you that, it's going up. So, but that's what I'm seeing from that. And that again takes, it has one EMA left, but it gets to take, price action, fibs. Where are some of the other? You got the 200 EMA down there. But we've lost all of those. So now you can see it on a bit of a cleaner picture with the daily. The fib levels, okay, they look like they're random wicks, but that's just because it's based on the 4 hour. But you can still see that it kind of lines up in terms of where we've gone. Okay, it's the wicks that get us there. They look cleaner on the 4 hour, but we're about to lose this level. And you give yourself a little bit of leeway, I accept, but that one is going to be very close to getting back in. Anyway, we'll cover some more Tau stuff a little bit later on. Could you please look at a trend line on BTC dating from the 5th of August? It's pretty much the exact level. Okay, let's have a look at that. Now, are you linear or log? I suppose that's the question. Because I am linear. I bet you're log looking at this. So I bet I'm log. Oh, no, maybe not. So 5th of August, we all know that's down here. That's not going to be it. I don't know if that's what you saw or if you were talking about Tau. No, it says BTC. Please can you look at a trend line on BTC dating from August the 5th to pretty much the exact current level. So that's that. I've done it from the wick. If you want, I can do it from the body. Okay. Okay, actually, that's what you were. I've got a feeling that looks quite nice. Yep. So, we have seen, you know, I wish I'd done it on a clean chart now, so you have to apologies for that. But you've seen sort of, yeah, lose it, comes back, rejects, finally breaks through it. Don't have much of an interaction, but it has bounced here. This, if I could get, maybe just my line's a bit too thick. But, you know, nice clean bounce. And yeah, that kind of looks to hold it. Maybe start from the higher to the lower. Good. There you go. Look at that. You know, who says you don't get good advice from the comments? Yeah, if I just try and that's probably as good as it's going to get, which I still think looks pretty good. Now, you know, I don't think we're going to fall out with people over that, are we? And that's kind of telling you 96 is there, and you know, that wick could easily go to 94. You're right. We found a strong level. I wish we'd had a touch point in between this gap, but that being said, you're right in that there is a potential opportunity for a bounce there. So a good spot from that. Okay, I'm just going to run through a couple of questions and then we'll get on to alts and Bitcoin dominance and everything else. Try and get these out of the way. So Sarah's asked, these top 3 were actually from last week, but because last week I was doing an end of year review, I didn't actually go through them. So Sarah, I apologize if you were waiting for my comments before getting in on virtuals, but it seems to have had steady growth without succumbing to the pronounced dips that other tokens have had over the last couple of months. Just wondering what your thoughts on it. I didn't really have too many thoughts on this. People have been talking to me about virtuals for probably the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks. And I kind of always looked at it and thought, oh yeah, it's going to pull back. Never looked into what it is. But you've got to say, actually, until today, it was having, well, probably a couple of days ago, as we'll look in the chart later. It's not a new token. It's been around for, you know, best part of the year, but it just did nothing. And then come October, I don't know, because I'm not into it, probably launched mainnet or whatever. It has flown and it has gone from 13 cents to at one point $5 something in a matter of months. We're going to have a look at another chart a little bit later on, but this thing has absolutely flown. And when you look at the chart, and I'll put some trend lines on, it's just snaked up beautifully. Matter of fact, I actually posted this in Discord yesterday, just sort of, you know, trying to garner people's views on sort of the chart without telling people what it was. And it just looked like a very healthy price action movement. Now, of course, today has probably gone and ruined that. But what is it? I don't really know too much about it, but effectively, it's a platform protocol, I suppose, where you can create your own AI agents. What does that actually mean? You can use those to, you know, to interact within sort of like the metaverse or gaming arenas or whatever. And, you know, you can like, and I sort of suppose teach it using AI so that it can actually interact with people in multiple different ways, whether that be, you know, text, voice, motion, whatever. You're going through it, and you know, when you actually click on this is the first screen you see. So I didn't really get much from looking into it because it's just sort of a page for all of this. So I need to spend a bit of time to actually kind of go through what it is. But you know, AI agents are definitely a bit of a flavor of the month at the moment. So we've kind of moved away from AI and sort of like taking that to the next level with AI agents, and virtuals is not the only one that is seeing the benefit of that rise. How sustainable that is, we'll have to wait and see. But that's where it currently sits. If we actually have a look at virtuals, I mean, let's just This is the daily. I just took the last 2 days off. I mean, look at this thing. Since it moved in September, you know, the 10 and the 20 just beautifully sort of just keeping it in check. And then you had like a trend line on, like, I think it's around about, I don't know, what am I on here? I'm going to mess this up again. No, I don't think it is that. I thought I had a really good trend line on it. I don't think I do. Maybe I was just going from the EMAs. But it's just had such a, you know, like you mentioned, Sarah, you know, a nice flow to it, moving away, coming back, you know, daily time frame 10 and 20. So we're not Mickey Mouse ones here and reacting from it, and just a healthy, sustained growth, despite it being over 90 days. And when we go on, nope, this here. This is after the fall, by the way. It's 6,400% over the last 90 days, which is just unbelievable how it's moved. And I saw this thing at $2 and $3 and $4, people talking about it. And, you know, I just didn't bother looking into it. But it has absolutely flown. So if you did get into it, absolutely. I know that Simon said he did some looking into this over the weekend, and he put a long in, which he knocked off because obviously things weren't going so well with price action. And if we actually knock the replay off now, we can kind of see that we've lost. On the daily, we've lost the 10. But we lose that all the time. So this could, because Virtuals has, you know, defied the rest of the market. So don't think that, you know, just because Bitcoin dropped, this is going to continue to drop as well. This could just be going down to the 20 EMA, sort of $3.50, and then looking to move back in. So I kind of got in around about the levels, well, a little bit higher than where we were now, and then I topped up yesterday, which, you know, unfortunately is a slightly underwater. I don't see this for me as a long-term hold because I don't know too much about it. I'm just trying to capture on some sort of momentum there because I had fiat left over. But yeah, that level there, sort of 350, is kind of what I'm looking at. And then, you know, a little loss of that, then, you know, hopefully we've not touched the 50 EMA since mid-September. That's going to be 262, which is a bit of a decent drop from here. So if this is something you're looking to get into, you might want to stagger some of your entries and just be like, well, you know, the rest of the market might continue falling. And even if the market recovers, this thing might start to just sort of, you know, people take some profit after being burnt a little bit from what's happened today. And maybe we get down to 260, but, you know, sort of 355 and down to sort of 263. From what we've seen and how this chart has reacted over the last 90 days, they do not seem like a bad sort of trading zone to have a look at. John's asked, can you have a look at WOG? I think I said that right, which is a meme on Solana. I don't really know, you know, I've not looked into it in massive detail at all. It's been around since the 1st of August, so it's had, you know, decent amount of time, 6 months worth of sort of life to it. We've seen it's had a nice growth from that. It's had a lot of meme coins that try and build that community had. It's had then that sell off with the diamond hands buying it. But what we haven't seen is that recovery out of it yet. So if you're a fan of Murad's and sort of how he tries to find some of his community cult driven ones, this hasn't qualified yet, because what we need to see is, you know, a recovery now, and a relatively sharp one. Whenever we start to move north, it has to take a new all-time high pretty damn quick. But it, again, you know, it shot from next to nothing, you know, 1 cent to 70 cents in a matter of 3 or 4 months. We're now down at 20 cents. So, you know, for those of you who got in early enough, still 20x there. In terms of, you know, what it is, you know, the character itself is memeable, but ultimately it's not all just about that. You know, have you got the community that are really behind it, shilling it for you? And I tried to get on Deck Screener earlier, but for some reason I can't pass the capture test. So I'm not going to waste anybody's time there, but I wanted to have a look at sort of like token holders and everything else. But that's something that you certainly want to have a look at, because it is 100% in circulating supply. So try and have a look at the token holders and how that's split. And really, you don't want many, if any, above 1%, unless they're exchanged, etc., which it is on Kraken, Mexi, Gates, and a few others, crypto.com. Although most of it is on Radium, as you would expect. But look at 24-hour trading volume as well. 35 million at the moment, according to CoinMarketCap. Deck Screener will be better at telling you where that is. Then John's asked me to have a look at the gas BTC. I'll tell you what, I'll pick gas BTC up when I talk about Tau. And then Dick, who put me onto the chart I just showed you now, why are Tau and CAS performing so badly over the last 90 days compared to the rest of the top 100? So he's the one that gave me this. This is a top 100 coins performance over 90 days. I'd say Virtue, absolutely flying. Some of these, I mean, you know, even with pullbacks, we're still looking pretty incredible. We can see some of the legacy ones here. I mean, DOT stands out, and EOS. I suppose Uni's probably up there in terms of it, but somewhere is going to be XLM, XRP. So yeah, ADA, all in sort of triple figures. And then you get down to the bottom, and there are very few that have done poorly. And the second to worst is CAS, and the fourth is Tau. And yeah, you know, we can sometimes be our own echo chamber, because we talk about these two a lot. And so, you know, in our mind, we'll, you know, these are highly talked about, highly successful, or, you know, great potential projects. So why are they done so badly when others have done so well? And you know, the reality of it is, are we really seeing the full side of it? And I'll take Tau as an example, and we'll do it whilst we have the Tau chart. In fact, let's just do it on a clean chart. Let's get rid of that. Let's put Tau. And the 3-day. No, just daily. Last 90 days is basically from, you know, beginning of October, isn't it? It's there. Let's change that color. Let's make it wider, make it dashed. That's where it is. And this is what we're dealing with. And so, you know, the reality of it is that we've had, you know, the correction down, which, you know, led into the election. We had the huge pump up from the election. But then when others sort of like stabilized, Tau, for whatever reason, dropped. And so it has looked like it's performed pretty badly. You know, and that's it. And why could that be? You know, when the likes of Barry Silber, you know, talking about it, and Grayscale's talking about it and trying to get some eyes on it, and we've seen other people sort of, you know, bigging that up. But for me, one of the things has got to be, I think dynamic Tau is probably confusing a lot of people. I think there's a lot of people who don't really understand what dynamic Tau is, and I'll stick my hand up and say that I'm probably one of those as well. And so they're kind of wondering, well, what does that mean for Tau if subnets are going to have their opportunity to have their own tokenomics within it? Do we really need to be following Tau? You know, there was hopefully going to be some sort of roadmap as to when that's going to be released. We haven't seen any of that yet. And so with that confusion, and with other AI projects moving, people have probably just been a bit fickle and gone, you know what, we'll look to sell. And Steve also mentioned another point in Discord today with, you know, staking rewards, as great as they are for long-term holders, it also doesn't provide much incentive for people to hold on. There's always going to be selling pressure, because people can keep what they originally had and just sell whatever they get given for free. And so that's just got to be sort of looked into and understood. But what I'll go back to just say is that everything has its day in the sun. You know, we wouldn't have been having this conversation had the 3-month period been from August to October. You know, we would have been looking at Tau absolutely flying through it. And we've seen times where Tau's been in the top 10 of the biggest earners over 30 days, 90 days or whatever. We just have at this moment in time experienced a sort of a blow off top, if you will. I mean, it got to 7. I don't even remember it getting to 750 or 740, but it did, and then came all the way back down to what, like 400. So we've had that fall to deal with, and we haven't really recovered it. And unfortunately, what's happened over the last couple of days, you know, we've had that nice move, and this again, you know, I'm going to talk about it later. I end up talking about it now. This really did look like a strong W, and sort of we shot through. And I remember saying to people, if it gets through 496, I'm going to buy, because that's where I got out at. You know, it happened whilst it was overnight, and it just kept on flying. And I was like, where the hell am I going to get in? And you know, I managed to get in here because this looked like such a strong W. But you know, the reality is, I know this wasn't necessarily a question, but what's this? So that was down 350, let's say, And then I'm trying to do some maths here. And then, yeah, you know what? 350 after 350 is going to be 175. And we're pretty much 175, just a 50% retrace, you know, and it's kind of looking a bit sad, like a dead cat bounce at the moment. And also, if you were to play the double bottom from the neckline, you know, there, and that's the neckline, the 50% is there. So well, it's actually a little bit higher than that, is there. So it's kind of done that, and it's fallen back down to the neckline. So, you know, it's some TA has just kind of works it away from it. But, you know, going back to what I said about Bitcoin right at the beginning, don't worry too much about what's happened over the day. You know, this is the year, and you know, if it's as good as it's billed to be, and as good as we all think it's going to be, it will have its time in the sun. I'm absolutely certain of that. I think they need to just clear up detail, get that message out there, advertise that, whatever, with what that's going to be. And you know, the staking rewards, I can't remember where they currently sit at the moment in returns, but maybe that needs to have a look at. Bijan, how we doing? Nasdaq, S&P still have a bit of work to do. I don't see us doing well till they recover their base support. Incidentally, these Nasdaq tops December 6th, same date as the assassination of the United Healthcare CEO. Yeah. Does it concern you that Tower is yet to get past the high of March before the Iranian raising fuzz ensued over the notes? Well, so this high here, and I appreciate it is the high. That was just for about an hour, if that, on the Binance launch. Prior to that, it has got back to its previous all-time high of 750. Now, I appreciate that we are, you know, looking at apples, and I'm trying to convince you it's oranges, because the all-time high is there. So it doesn't, you know, we've talked about this in Discord. You know, legacy coins have definitely had their return, and it's not just Tau that has been hit. You know, when all the legacy coins moved, there were plenty of those that didn't. Now, some new coins like Sui and Virtuals, you know, they did move too, and some memes moved, but yeah, some of the other alts, unfortunately, have been left behind. And I completely get, you know, the stuff that Bijan you put out about the Russell. It's too coincidental to ignore in terms of sort of where that's doing. And so, yeah, the traditional markets certainly have a role to play. I mean, Donald Trump spoke today, and you know, in the same 10-second breath, he suggested that inflation was too high, and interest rates were too high. And I immediately just thought, well, how's he going to resolve both of those at the same time? So it'll be interesting to see. You know, 13 days time, he's coming in. Then we've got a Fed meeting. We know that Gary's going out. I know it's the SEC and not the Fed, but there's certainly going to be a change up of monetary policy. However, you know, we got to understand that he can't do everything day one, and a lot of people in the crypto sphere at the moment are, he's the Bitcoin president we've been waiting for. He might well be, but it doesn't mean that he's going to jump onto crypto day one. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, you know, we want to see actual, you know, interest rates coming down, inflation coming down. We need to see the money printer turned on. I talked about that a couple of cuddles ago in terms of, it's not just about interest rates falling. Interest rates have to fall, absolutely. But until they turn that money printer on, we're not going to see that boost. And that's exactly what happened on each of the previous 4-year cycles in this time, which is perfect because it coincided with a new president and around about that 100-day. And in America, they give them sort of a 100-day period, and then they assess their performance after that. And, you know, Donald's going to come out with we're best mates. President Trump's going to come out with, you know, some things that he's going to want to do, and he's going to need some money to do it. So I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, the Fed is leaned on to maybe reduce interest rates. Don't know if that's going to be too fast. They can kind of fudge inflation. They'll just change what they're measuring it against. We saw that happen for the last 4 years. So I'm sure they can bring that down. Biden's in no hurry to try and do that now because he's out in a week. So yeah, and, you know, get those interest rates down, then the money printers turn on, and then I think we're going to see traditional markets and the crypto markets move. Anyway, right, back to the other questions. Julia, this is an interesting one because this is a position I'm at. I'm seeing media coverage questioning the rate of MicroStrategy's acquisition of Bitcoin, with particular regards to buying at any price and not focused on buying the dips. Even more so about why there's a big discrepancy between the Bitcoin price and the MicroStrategy share price. I've invested, and should I be worried? So I haven't invested yet, but I've been wanting to. And I've talked about this for a couple of weeks now, and I've not managed to find the courage to pull the trigger yet, because I too have seen quite a lot of FUD about MicroStrategy as an investment strategy on my timeline, in the research that I've been trying to do. And so it does call into question, well, what is going on with MicroStrategy? And you mentioned that you'd seen an article. I just did a quick, Google MicroStrategy Bitcoin acquisition strategy search, and this article came up. And this article was a pretty decent article, I think. It covered a lot of the things that I've been seeing, in terms of where MicroStrategy has gone. And the real issue, because this is not, I love Michael Saylor's stance on Bitcoin. I love what MicroStrategy are doing in terms of purchasing Bitcoin. But from an investment point of view of buying into MicroStrategy as sort of a hedge to give you some, traditional and safer exposure to Bitcoin, that logic doesn't really stack up for me, because what we see is, I know this isn't directly your question, which I'll try and cover in a moment, but to raise funds for MicroStrategy to buy, all they do is just, take on more shares, if you will, take, more loan notes, borrow more money against shareholders, if you will, and then go and buy more Bitcoin. And suddenly you go from a point of view of, well, I'm not buying I'm not buying $1 worth of stock in MicroStrategy and getting $1 worth of exposure to Bitcoin. It gets diluted. I mean, at the moment, the share price is $430 at the time of this article, and investors are only receiving 45 cents in Bitcoin exposure for every dollar spent on a share. But it gets worse than that, because every time he goes to take out some more loans, you keep on getting diluted. So that's only ever going to go down. So, the reality of it is, as much as I like what MicroStrategy is doing, and the share price does go up, don't get me wrong, it's done very well. Are there other better exposures to Bitcoin? If you want to be in a crypto kind of pension, for example, is YOLOing into MicroStrategy and MicroStrategy alone the right play? I would argue at the moment, no, it doesn't seem to be. And you take on board that, I saw an article, which, we're going to have a look at some dates in a moment, where MicroStrategy was trying to put forward that he would like 10 billion shares to be available, which would be a first of its kind for a company the size of MicroStrategy. And granted, they made it onto was it the NASDAQ? I can't remember what they made it on recently. But 10 billion shares, and that is then giving him just a license to just keep on producing shares, to just take that money to buy more Bitcoin. And hell, they'll end up with a hell of a lot of Bitcoin, but I question whether or not you'd be exposed, get that level of exposure, rather than just buying the Bitcoin. And so we have a look, because you're right, his strategy has always been, it doesn't matter if it's bear market or bull market, he's just going to buy. And I do that with one of my businesses. I bought some today, I just buy. Occasionally, I might hesitate for a couple of hours, but I'm not buying the levels that he's buying at. So some people will argue, well, he just keeps on buying, but he doesn't look at it as, oh, I've just bought Bitcoin at 100K. He looks at it as, I bought Bitcoin at a 90% discount because I know Bitcoin's going to 1 million. So buying at 100K now is fine. And that model has served him very well, because he's buying Bitcoin at 15K, buying Bitcoin, I don't think he ever got it down as low as 3K, but 20K, 27K, 60K, then back down to 20K. He was just buying at all those levels. And at over 400,000 Bitcoin in his bank, he's done very well, particularly as they've not really had to borrow that much money to do that. So, it looks on paper it's very good. Now, the other issue that people have is, well, you're just tied to whatever the Bitcoin's price is, then that's how MicroStrategy is. But actually recently that's not been the case, because if we have a look here, we saw Bitcoin's price rallying up through September and then massively pumping from the election, and that's exactly what MicroStrategy did. So Bitcoin's the red line, MicroStrategy is the bars, and then MicroStrategy, Michael goes out and sort of mentions this next round $1.7 billion worth of convertible senior notes, and suddenly there's a flip, and that's when the FUD starts, and we see it at an all-time high of $550 a share, and it's never recovered that, despite at that time Bitcoin hadn't broken 100,000. It's broken 100,000 multiple times since then, but actually all that MicroStrategy done has continued to drop and fall away. And then back around Christmas Day, Saylor talks about this $10 billion share gamble, and again the investors don't seem to be liking it, and so I'm just questioning whether or not this is the right one for me at the moment. I don't have the answers. I need to look into it a little bit more, but I haven't done that yet. But I am certainly just wondering where that ultimately is going. You've invested, I mean, how long have you invested for? I mean, that's the other thing, is I'm looking to this for my pension pot. So we're talking 20 years. So 20 years time, 2045, you know, that's where Saylor's saying each Bitcoin's going to be worth $13 million. So yeah, I probably will have done well out of that by then. Alan, been stalking RBNT for good entry. Love further review since the last time. Since last time on the project and chart. Red Belly. When did I do that? Because it's only been alive since, according to CoinMarketCap, since December 2025. I don't really know too much about it. If this is its date, and if I did talk about it before, I apologize for not remembering it. But again, I click on it and I can't even get any information on it, so I don't remember what it is. Now I look at Red Belly, I kind of think, is that name familiar? Apologies, I don't know, but at the moment, it launched at 27 cents. It's now down at 18. So we don't know if we've seen the bottom of that yet. It's only a couple of weeks old, according to CoinMarketCap. So I'd be cautious there. And we've only got 10% of the circulated supply or in circulation. So, and that's self-reported. It could be less than that. But what I'll do, Alan, is I will have a better look, because I got this about 5 minutes before I went live. I'll have a better look at this for next week. Try and remind myself of where I got it from. And then the final question, it's Kevin, sort of concerns about the USDT market cap chart. It's been falling since the 20th of December. Surely this is a bearish signal. What are your thoughts on this? I don't necessarily think it is. And neither does Helen Parts. Tether's USDT market cap drop linked to seasonal holiday lull. And a lot of things, you know, just sort of have that quiet period. And the 20th is kind of that thing, that sort of time frame in which you can get behind and say, yeah, that sort of makes sense, everyone breaking up for Christmas. But the other thing you've got to remember in and around that time was we had the MICA FUD. So that was the EU potentially delisting USDT across Europe. And it did turn out to be FUD because the deadline was the 30th of December for Tether to sort of meet all of their requirements, which they didn't. And it's still not being delisted. So there's definitely a bit of FUD around that. And maybe there were people moving away from Tether just to protect themselves and getting into USDC or other stable coins. I've not necessarily looked into that. But if you just want to have a look at the chart of USDT, I mean, since the 8th of November, it has printed $21 billion worth of USDT in 2 months. And then it's lost 4 billion of that. So yeah, it has dropped off a little bit, but it's dropped off all over that Christmas period, as we've talked about. But we are starting to see it stabilized a bit now. So I don't necessarily think we need to get worried about that at the moment. USDT dominance, you know, that's a good sign that it's still low. That's what we want it to be. You know, we don't want people. I didn't go back far enough. That's a shame. I wanted to see what it was going to be like in the last bull run. But yeah, you know, we're going to always expect there's a decent amount of USDT dominance, but you know, we want people putting that tether then into other crypto assets. So no, I don't see any FUD in one tether because it just can't be killed. I'll stand by that until it happens. And two, the fact that they've only dropped And it's, what is it? It's like 2%. That's all it's lost, is 2% over the last 2 weeks, which is nothing compared to a lot of other cryptos. We're just not used to seeing stable coins drop. And don't get me wrong, this hasn't dropped in its value. It's still pegged at pretty much $1. It's just its market cap has gone down. And, you know, whether we find out that's because they've, you know, there's been just people converting back out or whatever, I don't know. I haven't really looked into it. Anyway, right, we're already at 9:10. What's the Bijan put? At least we are beating with our holders. Yeah, absolutely. That is, it's surprising as well. You know, you don't see many meme coins down here, but yep, it is. Again, not really looked into where it's at, but this is I've never seen this before. So then, like doing all 100, I've seen 50. This will be useful just to sort of see where it goes. I mean, that Virtues does worry me that it's so much. You know, this is a highly kind of sought after thing, but sometimes you've got to take a little bit of a risk. So just manage that risk as you see fit, and if you can get something from it, then absolutely perfect. So let's have a look at some altcoins. We've kind of done Tau. You know. Do I want it to fall? Not necessarily. Did I sidestep this move today? No, I haven't. We closed below the 786. I will review whether or not it's worth the risk to reward of getting down to somewhere like 470 or that. But yeah, if I do get out, it will, as God is my witness, be a very short-term thing in terms of just maybe if you see a $10, $15 drop, get in. I just happen to have a few more than what I did before. Bijan's, but I'm mega bearish on MicroStrategy short term. Base support breach, lower highs. I think you can wait. BCB also criticized Sailor's buy-ins, stating they're too random and high. I understand everything from the TA point of view. I don't think Michael Saylor cares what the price is, and he has been very vocal on that for years. It doesn't bother him, and so you know. That's what he will do, and whether it drops to 70k, he'll still buy. Whether it goes up to 170k, he'll still buy. So I think we just got to sort of bear that one in mind. Let's have a look at Bitcoin dominance, because we've had, again, you know, we had that sharp pullback. We thought we were on for an alt season in December, and then things kind of didn't go our way, and Bitcoin dominance came back. But looking at this 50 EMA is always the one that, you know, interests me the most, particularly on the daily. And we've kind of lost it. We're under it at the moment, but we're rallying into it, okay? Rallying into it. Need to see how the next couple of candles are going to be next few days. And I tell you, you know, could be a lovely little W pattern there to sort of kickstart us through. Now, you know, given what year we're in, we kind of want to see this switch. So... But what we need to see is we need to see Bitcoin dominance drop while total market cap either remain the same or increase, preferably increase. Because if it remains the same, it's a mild alt season. If total market cap increases while Bitcoin dominance decreases, then it's a pretty darn good alt season. So unfortunately, when you're looking at dominance, you kind of have to factor in those factors there. But yeah, you know, it's just, for me, it's what it does at this 50 EMA. And so we're at 50, let's just go at 58%. And then the next one for me is going to be at what would ultimately be the neckline at 59%. So there's two areas to really look out for to see whether it recovers. Like I say, actually, I'd kind of like to see this start to move down. But I want to see market cap go in the right direction. And it looks like prices, I've just looked at them. The red's not looking as bad as it was before, so maybe we'll start to see some small signs of recovery. I mean, again, this virtuals, like I say, it seems to be immune. It's only at a 1% drop today compared to everything else. So, yeah, fair play to that one. Casper, I mean, just for me, look at this. It's basically ranged for a year. I mean, that's all it's done. This smacks of what Link did to me, and then I got the wrong side of it. But, you know, that's all it's done for the last year. So there's been amazing opportunities, if you are patient, to sort of buy and to sell with some key sort of indicators of where we are. You know, sort of losing the EMA cloud's a great time to get in. Bursting above the EMA cloud, great time to get out. Whatever, however you want to have a look at it. But right now, you know, we're the wrong side of all of the EMAs, apart from the 800, because we're on the daily. And it just doesn't particularly look great. And even if it does, you know, what are we going to see? It's got a long way to go to get back to 21 cents for its all-time highs. Link was just one that had a really strong move during that alt season Trump rally type thing. It's cooled off, but again, this just kind of looks like a 50% retrace, doesn't it? You know, so shot up to 30, so from 10 to 30, so increase of 20, back down to 20, so that 50% pullback. We've shot up again. We've pulled Kobo hopefully off the EMA, and then maybe a move up. So Link's potentially a play. And I feel like today's move was quite a sudden move. I feel like maybe we might see that recovered over the next couple of days anyway. Render, Sui is another one with great strength. So this looks like protocol, virtual, sorry, doesn't it? Same kind of thing, 10 and the 20, really playing off those. And even today's drops only taking us down to the 10. So another very strong, I don't own any of this asset, which again, if you're just looking to maybe try and maximize on the short term, moving away from some of our beloved towels temporarily whilst it is struggling, you know, maybe a way to then get back in at a later time and ultimately sort of add more value to your towel portfolio. And I don't necessarily think that's something to be afraid of. Just, you know, just remember where you are in terms of the overall cycle and how courageous you particularly feel in doing that. We've gone through virtues. Some of the memes, I mean, SPX had a wild couple of days. I mean, it got to what, 170, which, yeah, it's just crazy. But again, you know, it needs to cool off. I can see it coming down to 123, maybe even 104 before recovering. But this one had a nice little ranging pattern there. We have broken above that. We left some vector candles in our wake and the EMA. So, you know, it only seems natural to get down here and then have that next leg up. I think would be perfect look at it. I haven't looked at Townu or Zappy in forever. And unfortunately, for those of you that are in Townu, my opinion, having a look at this chart now, has not changed. You know, it just can't seem to get out of itself. And so it is just lower highs. It's found a base at least, but not looking great there. Zappy, hopefully different. Just been ranging for best part of a year, and that is messy as well in terms of how the chart goes. So I know a lot of you are in those, and look, I'm not throwing any shade, we'll just leave it at that. But right now, not looking like other meme coins. I know every meme coin can be slightly different, but those two there, just for me, don't seem to be the ones to go with. Let's have a look at, close the poll. Let's have a look. Just want to see where people are. So interestingly, no one thinks that the all-time high is going to be within the next, 20% almost. No one thinks it's going to be up to 120k. Some of you think it's only going to get to about 150. 40% think it could get between 150 and 200, and then there's 45% think they actually get above 200k. I'm probably with the 150 to 200k. If I could have more options, I would have broken it down a little bit, but that's kind of where I feel we're going to go. I think that is going to be very tasty. That's going to be almost $4 trillion for BTC, because it's around about 20 million by the time we're in the end of the bull market. So $4 trillion, you're probably looking, if that's at a 40% to 45% overall market cap, that's another $4.5 trillion to add to it. So we're looking at $8.5-9 trillion in the market, which is kind of midway what we're looking at. I think altcoins are going to have a hell of a run with that. I'm still of the view Tau probably gets about 0.5% of the overall market, but at 9 trillion, that's it's 4,500 per Tau. So certainly nothing to be sniffed at from there. I didn't update my portfolio, so I can't necessarily show you it. It is everything that you saw before. So BTC, Tau, NEAR, Render, memes, USDT, and there's some virtues in it. I haven't been brave enough to open that. I've just been too busy today to open up my Delta portfolio, so I haven't necessarily dealt with that. But I think I'm going to end it there, because we've been rabbiting on now for best part of an hour and 20 minutes. Key takeaways from today, really, look, yes, there will always be days like today, okay? 6% drops, they're going to hurt for the 24 hours it happens. But this is our year, and I want to emphasize that. However negative I may sound, because I have to talk about things, that are happening on the hourly or the 4 hour, whatever, overall picture, this is the year for us. And I think we all need to just get that in our heads. I talked about this last week. Have an idea of how you're getting out. Let's spitball it. Let's chat about it in Discord in terms of where we see it. I'm not particularly always going to be right about that. Doesn't mean that Simon's going to be right. Doesn't mean that you're going to be right. But someone, together we may be able to sort of come up with that way of doing it. And it's however it feels comfortable for you guys. So, let's just make the most of this 2025. I've waited 3 years for this patiently, trying to sort out my position. I've messed around. I've made money. I've lost money. I've told myself I'm going to recover the money. Well, this is a year that I need to do that. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And yes, I'm going to take risks because that's the way to maximize it. But I know at the end of the day, I want to get out of this more than I got in. Thanks, everybody. There will be a trading pub on Thursday, usual time, 1 p.m. Got any questions between now and then, usual sort of thing, tag me in it, send me a DM, whatever. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy the rest of 2025. And I pray to God tomorrow I can stick a chart up there saying, look at that green vector candle. We covered today's losses. See you all later, guys. Thanks a lot. Cheers now.